Well, we tend to cover many angles of investing, but a niche type we haven't touched on as much is halal investing, one that Canadian banks have made available for years now. And for more on this, we're joined by Samir Azam, Portfolio Manager at RBC. And of course, Ryan Bushell is still here with us to talk a little bit more about halal investing. Thank you very much, Samir, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit the base of what halal investing is.
So halal investing, just simply, it's a subset of responsible investing that aligns with the investor's values and ethical beliefs. There's some core principles. So the main one, you would say it's focused more on real economic activity. So it avoids excessive debt and excessive speculation, and it screens out certain sectors like tobacco, gambling, weapons, in a nutshell.
Alcohol, I imagine.
Yes.
And so how do you when you go to that screen, then there's the next level of, okay, there's companies that deal with these companies. And so how far down do you go? And that was one of the things that I always thought with SRI investing is the banks back like oil companies, et cetera. So just curious on that.
So it's basically a couple layers of screens. So first you look at the revenue of the business. So it's a certain revenue that usually gets screened out. And then you look at debt ratios and cash ratios. So typically it's two layers of screens.
And what about AI? Is there room with AI right now? How are you working that in?
So you think about it, right? Because it promotes long-term investing, right? The principles promote long-term investing. So it pushes capital towards more sustainable benefits in society like technology. And AI could be part of that, or healthcare, or sustainable manufacturing, right? So it has a component of AI in it.
And another hot topic today is gold. So obviously, no real economic value to gold other than what's happening with the changing of the financial system, and also some speculation there. So just curious how you guys would treat that.
Oh yeah, gold's part of the portfolio. It's a real asset. So typically it's a good hedge to have in the portfolio, and it's permissible as long as it's more. You got to own the real assets. So you got to find vehicles that has real backing of gold and silver.
So physical or companies that are producing it?
Both, physical and companies.
And who are you finding as your investors? I imagine Muslims, obviously, but are you finding people outside who are interested in this? Because it kind of runs along the line of environmental, social government.
Roger, great question there. I believe it's got a broader appeal just because of the values and the ethical beliefs. So, of course, as you mentioned, there's a growing Canadian Muslim population, 1.5 million in Canada. So that you add those folks on there, business owners, professionals, and anybody looking for, ethical-based, values-based investing. So it has a broader appeal.
And are you finding that? Are you finding people who are coming in outside of the Muslim community?
I would say slowly. It's about awareness and education. What is this? What am I investing in? But slowly, it has very similar values as responsible investing. So slowly, it's building up.
And so in your practice, are you picking individual companies and names, and I'm assuming you don't hold debt instruments because of the stipulations, or is it fund of funds, alternatives? I'm just sort of curious how your portfolio would be structured.
Yeah, so you have equities, different types, income or growth. You have commodities, gold and silver. You have REITs in the portfolio, and now there are certain fixed income instruments that are asset-based, not interest-based. There are also solutions within the portfolio, so you can diversify within those all four asset classes. So there is a little bit larger menu, so it's not just equity focused.
I'm surprised on REITs with a lot of interest income coming into real estate. So just maybe clarify that.
Yeah, so basically it's tenant-based, so the tenant can't produce tobacco, and then there's certain debt ratios that must comply. And there's certain interest income ratios must comply to. So there's ratios that usually it's tamed down, and there's a purification process after.
Okay, and what kind of debt levels are you looking for?
For REITs you're talking about, or in general? So usually most rules allow a certain threshold. There's different types of rules globally recognized, but they're anywhere around 1/3, 30%. That's not the primary business, so we understand.
30% relative to equity or enterprise value?
For REITs, enterprise value, but for a regular company that's not in real estate, it's usually market value.
And how does it compare to the market? returns,
performance.
yeah,
Oh yeah. So you know
performance.
what? I was thinking about bringing a chart here, but there's some really good data. The S&P Dow Jones indices has put this out. They have an index since 2009 or 10. And if you compare with the S&P 500 and put this filter on, it actually is relatively similar as the S&P 500, or some years has outperformed by 100 to 150 basis points.
And I mean, and when it comes to investing, is it mostly U.S. and Canada, or do you look?
It's global,
You look
international.
global, and is there any weighted areas?
Yes, I would go, typically we're like, 50, 60% US, 20% Canada, and then the remaining international.
And what about, do you invest like in Muslim countries as well? Does that make it easier to do some of that investing?
No, it's the rules. The rules are push us more to developed markets. So we typically stay Toronto, New York, London, Europe. But you could go into Muslim countries too. But typically we're more focused on liquidity and in developed markets.
Okay. We appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much for
thanks
joining
for having me.
us.
Appreciate it.
That was Samir Azam, portfolio manager at RBC, and we were talking about halal investing.